going?
Yeah.
Teaching to the test.
I have no idea.
Okay.
What they should be doing is actually teaching them conceptual understanding and a deeper learning. But no, they don't do that. They just teach them how to answer the problems in the test. That's what teaching to the test is, and I hate it.
Teaching to the test is when the teacher gives you specific material and that you're tested on it.
When teachers base all their information that they teach in the class just on the test, like the PAC test or like strategy tests, that's it.
Teaching to the test is pretty much when teachers only teach things that they know students are going to be tested on so that they know they'll do well on them, but they don't really expand or ask other questions.
I feel like it's more stressing learning like very specific things, like, all right, learn this term, learn specific things in order to do well on the test, more than actually like mastering the material, understanding the material.
Kind of like on the SAT, like they tell you like you can skip questions like and still not get points taken off. So like teach that kind of formatting and like tricks, I guess you would say, to like be successful on tests.
I think it's a good thing.
I think it's positive for the student to focus on a specific thing to study for the exam, but I also think it's negative because you don't get to learn about everything in that field of education.
I think it's a negative.
You're going to be well prepared to like take it on, but at the same time, like I can see some negative effects to it, as if, or like in a sense to where like the teacher only teaches you the information you need to know, whereas there's probably a lot more information you could know.
I think teaching to the test can be a really negative thing because if teachers are so worried about test scores, then they're not going to worry about the things that really matter, like what students really should be learning and what practical knowledge they need to have in order to be successful.
Just kidding. I hate it.
Yes, I did have a teacher that taught to the test, but my grades were good, but my understanding of that field was limited.
Yes, I have. I had a 11th grade math teacher, and she taught strictly to the test we would take. It was good for me because I mean it's easy to study for, but it hasn't taught me a lot.
As a teacher, this started to become an issue while I was in my career as a high school math teacher, right? So we were feeling increasingly the pressure of external tests, and yes, it does have an effect on your instruction because you feel pressured because your students are going to be taking this test, and somehow or other people make it a reflection on the quality of your instruction.
Definitely. I feel like a lot of my teachers throughout elementary and middle school and even high school would teach to the tests because they were so concerned about their jobs and test scores.
I was in SAT class, and the teacher just taught to the test. Like he only taught us literally how to take the test.
So I have had a teacher that taught to the test, and in my opinion, like it was an interesting experience. But at the same time, like we did practice AP tests, and they taught us like the format of tests that we were going to be taking. But they kind of focused a lot more on that and how to like beat the tests, I guess you would say. They focused a lot more on that than the actual material. So when it came time for the test, I only made a 3 on the AP test, where I could have maybe made a 5 if I had the opportunity to learn the information a little bit better and really dive into that a little bit more.
Teachers, they teach to the test because that's how they're evaluated. You know, it's hard to judge a teacher. You know, there's no real, hard, or evidence except for test scores.
I think some teachers teach the test because it's a lot easier on their part, and it helps improve test scores by limiting the amount of stuff that students have to know for the test.
It's easier for the student, and the student would get good score, good grade, and that would reflect on the teacher being a good teacher, even though that they have not taught the way they should.
To make their job easier.
It's easier to teach specifically to the test rather than trying to get your students to understand topics as a whole.
If your annual evaluation is dependent on student performance on this test, that test is going to be a driver of your instruction.
Chasing all of the same dreams, only living on.
I think that you definitely need to make sure that students have the knowledge of the tests, and have the knowledge that they need in order to pass the test, but not necessarily make that the #1 priority.
Teachers have to learn to balance.
While it is kind of important for a student to know the format of a test and what it's going to look like to an extent, I think it's even more important for them to know the information well. So the teacher could not only tell them the things they need to know, but the things other things that aren't going to be on the test as much, but things that they can still take away from the course.
Instead of teaching to the test, the teachers should, really take the time to make sure their students learn the material deeply and have a deep conceptual understanding of it. Because if that happens, they will be able to answer any question that comes their way.
And now you're working for the